Police stop a motorist for a simple equipment infraction. A piece of red plastic was broken on his taillight. They ask him to get out of the vehicle with his hands on top of his head, slowly walk backwards. Eventually the officers detain him, they hold on to his hands and frisk him. The question is, can they do all of that in the name of officers' safety just because the stop occurs late at night in a high crime area? That's the question we're going to answer today. And before we go on, I want to thank you for watching me here on YouTube. Welcome to LAWSTACHE channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to the podcast version of this recording on Audible or Spotify, please give my podcast a 5-star rating. And finally, if you want to support this channel, consider going to LAWSTACHE.com and check out some of the merch, including the Do Not Arrest This Person t-shirts, hats, stickers, and some other items. These are a perfect gift for Christmas or any other holiday that you celebrate. Thanks for watching.
Quick message from LawStache. Are you charged with a crime? Or do you want to know your rights if stopped by police? Watch California attorney Anton Vialtsin discuss legal cases from the Supreme Court, Ninth Circuit, and California state courts on the LawStache YouTube page. Anton has handled hundreds of federal and state criminal cases, has an in-depth knowledge of the law, and has the best mustache ever. Subscribe to the LawStache YouTube page. That's LAWSTACHE.
Today we're discussing a California case, People versus Medina. 49-year-old Mr. Medina was driving around midnight in Los Angeles. He gets pulled over by law enforcement because he had a broken taillight. A piece of plastic was missing on the red part of the taillight. This was a violation of California Vehicular Code. Now, there was nothing specific about Mr. Medina, but they asked him to get out of the vehicle with his hands on top of his head and slowly walk backwards towards police. He complied with all the commands. When he got to the officers, one of the officers grabbed Mr. Medina's hand and asked him whether he had any weapons, sharp objects, or anything else on him before the officer would search him. Well, Mr. Medina said that he had a rock in his pocket. The officer assumed that that meant narcotics, and in fact, after searching Mr. Medina, they found rock cocaine inside Mr. Medina's pocket. Mr. Medina gets charged with drug possession, but he files a suppression motion saying that his statement about the rock and all the items that are found on him and inside his vehicle should be suppressed because they were found in violation of his Fourth Amendment rights. Now remember, the Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures, and generally speaking, officers need to have a warrant before they conduct a search or seizure. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but from the outset, we know that the initial seizure is legal. The officers were permitted to stop this vehicle because Mr. Medina was violating a vehicular code by having a broken taillight. But a traffic stop that is lawful at its inception may exceed constitutional bounds when extended beyond what is reasonably necessary under the circumstances which made its initiation permissible. If a traffic offender provides proper identification, the officer must simply prepare a written notice to appear, reciting the particulars of the violation, and must release the offender when he signs a written promise to appear. If the officer reasonably believes the driver is armed and presently dangerous to the officer or to others, the officer is entitled to conduct a Terry frisk for weapons. A Terry frisk is a serious intrusion upon the sanctity of the person, which may inflict great indignity and arouse strong resentment, and it is not to be undertaken lightly. Accordingly, a frisk for weapons is not justified unless the officer can point to specific and articulable facts which, considered in conjunction with rational inferences to be drawn therefrom, give rise to a reasonable suspicion that the suspect is armed and dangerous. Hey, quick interruption. Happy holidays. But if you still don't have a gift for your friend who always gets in trouble with law enforcement, consider going to LAWSTACHE.com and buy one of these t-shirts that says "Do Not Arrest This Person." They come in black or blue, and what's better yet, until the end of this month, until December 31st of 2024, if you put in Santa 2024 as a coupon on LAWSTACHE.com, you will get 10% off all of your purchases. Again, go to LAWSTACHE.com, Santa 2024 as the promo code, and you'll get 10% off. Let's get back to the video. Here the police could not articulate the reasons why they believe Mr. Medina was presently armed and dangerous. Instead, when the officers testified, they said that they searched Mr. Medina because this was a standard procedure, the stop happened late at night, and in a high crime area. And they said there was nothing specific about Mr. Medina. But the court points out that the time of day and the high crime area are two factors that Mr. Medina has no control over. When the officers testify, they have to explain why it is Mr. Medina who's armed and dangerous, not the surroundings. So at the end of the day, this is an unlawful detention and search. And all the items that are found on Mr. Medina have to be suppressed and cannot be used against him in trial because they were found in violation of his Fourth Amendment rights. Now, the prosecution tries to save the day by saying that Mr. Medina was searched only after he spontaneously confessed to having narcotics in his pocket. But the court doesn't buy it. Mr. Medina was detained the second the officers grabbed his hands and asked him whether he had any weapons or anything else on him. That is when the search began. And so the search didn't happen after he, quote unquote, spontaneously confessed. The search began the second they took a hold of Mr. Medina. So, what do we know? Based on these two factors, the day that is happening at the end of the day, late at night, in a high crime area, those two factors alone do not justify detention and search of motorists. If you learned something today, I hope you hit that thumbs up button. If you're listening to the podcast version of this recording on Audible or Spotify, please give my podcast a 5-star rating. Again, if you're new here on the LAWSTACHE channel, subscribe to it. I will see you next week for another deep dive on another criminal case. And finally, if you want to support this channel, consider going to lawstache.com and check out some of the merch, including the Do Not Arrest This Person t-shirts, hats, and other items. Thanks for watching.